All right. For those tuning into the recording, this is going to be day one, which is basically the orientation and the foundation reset. All right. You guys can see my screen, right? All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome in, everyone. I'm super excited to get this started. This has been a product that I've been building for quite some time now. I got the idea, I want to say, kind of early summer, and then just started to plan it out. I started to build it really all by myself. I have Kareem as well by my side who was helping me along with a few things and getting the Discord all organized. We ended up being, I think, around, I want to say 18 people that joined, which is a nice small group. I was honestly happy that it was a smaller group rather than a larger one. This way, I actually get to know each and every one of you. Hopefully, if you guys do show up every single day and are interactive. Now, obviously, if you don't want to, you don't have to interact, but for you to get the most out of this, I definitely suggest that you do actually interact not just with me, but with each other and really build friendships along the way and accountability partners. Because at the end of the day, the one thing that we all have in common here is we're all trying to get better at trading, right? And whenever you have a common ground, it's easy for you to connect and push each other to reach the next level and to start improving from day one, right? So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. For those tuning into the stream, this is day one, the foundation reset and the orientation. And if you guys have any questions, please try to keep them towards the end. And then at the end, you guys are welcome to unmute your mics or send a message on the live chat, not on the general chat, but on the stream chat, whatever you guys like more. And I'll make sure to get to your questions. So at the end of each stream, there will be a time set for Q&A specifically. All I ask is just keep it specific to the topic that we're discussing. That way you can just stay on topic and not bounce into other ideas and other topics. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So just today is not going to be anything that's in depth, right? It's just the welcome day. So like I said, the goal here in this mentorship, in this bootcamp, is that we are trying to rebuild your systems, teach you how to execute, and to eventually reach the level of being, quote unquote, a professional trader. Right? This is the first bootcamp that I do by myself. I've done bootcamps in the past, as you guys may know, but this will be the first time that I do it by myself, and might be the last. I do plan on launching something else in the future, but as a 30-day bootcamp, I think this is going to be the only one that I do. And just a reminder, I know you guys are all here to learn, but just as a reminder, this is not going to be a signals group. There will be no alerts. This is not a thing where you just come in for a month and then expect to get rich right out the gates, right? That's not going to happen. That's not how it works. The goal is to actually teach you guys a strategy and a system that you could use and essentially live off of, right? Trading is not just some random hobby that you learn, it's actually a skill that you could live off of, right? Just like many before me have done through the right education systems and through building the right process, right? So, what this bootcamp is, right? This bootcamp is a complete reset on how you approach the markets. A lot of you in here, from what I've spoken to so far, you guys have good ideas, you have good strategies, you have good structures that you trade around. But from what I've seen, a lot of people are missing a foundation, right? They're missing a backbone. They're missing a I kind of want to say a guide that they could fall back on, right? Usually people are just bouncing around from different strategies to different trade ideas to different setups. They don't really have that one kind of foundation or that one backbone that they could fall off or fall back on to really hold them up, right? So hopefully by the end of this boot camp, that is achieved and you actually have that foundation and that backbone to fall off of. I'm going to be talking a lot about my process, right? And how I trade with the approach that I take, right? I'm going to be giving you guys a lot of step-by-step plans and actions that you could take to actually start seeing change from day one. Right? It's built for consistency. Right? The way that I trade now, technically, I'm not a full-time trader. I am still a student, but after I graduate, the goal is that I just trade full-time, and I made sure that my strategy allows me to do that. Right? It's not a lottery strategy where I try to get lucky every now and then. No, it's a strategy that has consistency, and it's a strategy that survives in different market conditions. That way, if the markets enter into a bull market, into a bear market, into a range, doesn't matter what market we are in, my strategy prevails because it focuses on reading the markets with an unbiased lens, right? The boot camp is not going to be about getting rich quick. It's not going to be about me teaching you guys how to trade zero DTEs. It's not going to be teaching you guys about indicators. It's not going to be any of that, right? It's going to be very simple, right? Market structures and how to actually trade, right? Down to the basics and what you actually need to succeed at this game. Right, so just a quick little preface of why I think most traders fail, or I want to say not necessarily fail, but a lot of traders are very stagnant, right? They usually reach a phase where I like to call the kind of intermediate phase, where they can make money month over month, right? Let's just say out of 12 months, they'll make money in six and lose money in six. And at the end of the year, they're at break even. That's a very good spot to be in because you already have the right kind of frameworks, you already know what you're doing, but you still need that little kick to get you into consistent profitability, right? So from what I've seen, right, and the hundreds of students that I've mentored before you guys, the number one thing is the no structure, right? Which is the one that I was talking about. They don't have that foundation and that backbone to fall back on, right? They are always missing that sort of guide that they could live off of and always go back to see if this is objectively right or wrong, right? Now, the way that I also like to think about trading is that it's more of an art rather than a science. So technically, no one is right and no one is wrong, but there are also still frameworks and backbone structures that you could live off of, right? Traders usually also don't have any routines. They don't journal. They're very emotional, and they're focused on the results without actually putting in time into the process, right? I'm going to be talking a lot about the process here and my way of thinking, right? My step by step kind of approach and how I actually go about things, right? It's also why I created the Yusuf's Live Prep channel instead of making alerts. Although I have been a bit quiet over the last few weeks because I just had exams, but that is built there for me to show you guys my process, right? How I actually think, rather than me just shoving trades and alerts to you, right? So a lot of people fail not because they're very emotional or because they're not smart, right? No, it's just simply they don't have that backbone and that structure and that guide that they could fall back on. So the foundation reset, the week is going to be about, first of all, stripping away bad habits. And those go from the emotional aspect, right, and the psychology into the more technical analysis part, right? So we're also going to be going over unlearning bad TA, which I think most people do have some sort of bad tendencies and they focus on the wrong things. We're also going to be rebuilding from zero, right? We're not going to be adding anything. My trading is not anything fancy, right? I'm sure you guys all know how I trade by now or have a general kind of idea. It's nothing that's super fancy. It's nothing that's super technical or anything like that. It's actually more simple, right? And I remove a lot of the fluff. If you guys look at my charts, I don't really have any indicators, right? Sometimes I have the moving averages, but generally speaking, I don't really have any indicators. Right, so I'm very kind of simple in my approach, and I focus on the things that actually matter. So, just a quick kind of refresh of what technical analysis really is, at least to me. To me, technical analysis is reading price, right? Price is the number one most important thing when it comes to trading, right? It's not about indicators, it's not about fancy lines, it's not about patterns, it's not about none of that. It's about price, right? And understanding price action to its simplest forms, right? What is price action? How does price action actually look like? What does price action mean, right? How do I read these candlesticks? That's the most important part of trading, right? That's going to give you the most important, I want to say, lens that you could look through to actually understand what's going on, right? We like clean charts. We don't like charts that are full of lines, trend lines, and indicators and all that noise. No, we like very, very clean charts, right, with minimal noise, right? And we also want to focus on context, right? And what I mean by context is what's happening on the overall, right? What's the narrative that's being told here? What's the story? What's the picture that's trying to be painted here, right? That's context. And very simply put, right, understanding why price moves is what you need, right? If you can't understand that, then nothing else really matters, right? That's going to be the pinnacle of trading. So some kind of key points here on, I think you guys probably all know this by now, but I like to keep the first kind of few days at the very basics just as a refresh, right? And also, like I said, to get those bad habits kind of removed. Because from what I've seen, even if you do some reflecting, I don't know where everyone is exactly on their journey, but you'll notice that when you first started trading, right, ideas would just flow and you wouldn't have this kind of bad energy that's kind of towards trading, right? Because you haven't experienced the losses yet. So your mind would kind of be okay with taking losses, it would be okay with taking wins when they come. But as you kind of get deeper and deeper into the journey, you start to develop those bad habits and those negative emotions, right? So always try to think of going back to the basics and back to the simple stuff, right? The retail, they're very reactive to price, right? They let price kind of just, oh, this is happening, let me try to buy a call. Oh no, the market just went back down, let me try to buy. They're very reactive and they're very quick on formulating new ideas and a new piece of thesis, right? Which is bad. You don't want that. Instead, you want to be someone that actually comes very prepared. Right now, I personally I prepare every single night before the next day. What my plan is, what names I'm looking at, what I think of the broader market, what levels I'm looking at to execute, what contracts I'm buying, what risk levels I'm using, what take profits I'm using. Everything is planned before the trading day, right? So that when the market opens, I'm just like a robot. I'm ready to just execute as my plan that was built the day before. So I'm always prepared, right? I also have very strict rules that I have, which I will be sharing with you guys as we get into the other days, and kind of like a rule book that I use. And obviously, a good trader also manages risk. But another important part, which I don't think a lot of people focus on, is getting aggressive. Now, I personally do like to get aggressive, probably more often than I should be. But generally speaking, when I see an opportunity, I'm ready to hit it with a lot of size and I'm ready to be aggressive. And I think that is very important, right? Especially when it comes to options trading, right? Because we're not here to barely beat the S&P, right? I don't think anyone that joined this boot camp is here because they want to return 20% year to date, right? Like let's be honest here. We're here because we want to return a 2, 3, 4x on our account over a calendar year, right? And that is possible, right? And I think that's the whole point of someone that shows up to the markets every day, right? Like I know a few guys that come and try to trade every single day, right? And they just do this full time just to try to barely beat the S&P, which doesn't make sense to me, right? Instead, I want to be that aggressive trader that takes on the risk when the time is right, of course, and try to really get an outstanding return on the year. So the consistency that you're gonna get in your trading at the end of the day is always gonna come from your process, right? You're never gonna get successful on accident, right? Any trader that you've learned from, or any famous trader from the past, they didn't get just randomly lucky. Sure, they might have gotten lucky on a trade or two, but they were also there at the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. All right, so the luck kind of just falls in your hands essentially. It's kind of similar to my NVIDIA DeepSeek short, which some people were saying, "Oh, I just got lucky." Well, no, I didn't just get lucky. I was there at the right place at the right time, and I was reading the right chart, and I had the correct thesis, and then news just came into my favor, right? So you're not just gonna get successful on accident, right? It's gonna be through actual processes that you take every single day, right? And action that you take from day to day, right? Always remember that in trading, it's very easy for you to overthink the future, right? Or to plan too far ahead, or to think, oh, in 2026, I want to make 50,000, I want to make 100,000, right? And that could start to overwhelm your process and your thinking. I don't want you guys to do that. I think setting targets and setting monetary gain targets or even P&L targets is a very bad way to go about trading. I want you to simply focus on the process, right? Don't worry about tomorrow, worry about today. Worry about right now, right? Worry about what can I do today to make sure that I am doing the best of my ability um, to reach profitability, right? Or consistent profitability, right? Don't be overwhelmed by the future and thinking about, I think the market is gonna sell over the next year, or I think the market is gonna go up over the next year. That is all noise. That is gonna be very distracting to your trading. I want you to simply focus on today, right? And focus on taking action right now and what you could do to make the best out of the day, right? That could be from small things, just simply journaling, right? Taking some time out of your day to reflect, right? Or it could be making sure that you execute properly, right? Making sure that you don't overtrade. All those little things that matter today, compounded over a year, right? That's where true success comes, right? It doesn't come from planning too far ahead and thinking too in the future and getting overwhelmed. No, it comes from just simple stuff, simple good habits and actions they need to take from today, right? The consistency will be built through those day-to-day actions, right? Just like having daily routines, a specific kind of, if you like to journal before you trade, before the trading day or after, right? The way you plan, the way you build your focus list, the way you approach the market, everything, right? Having a very specific daily routine that you follow every single day. I will be sharing my daily routine, of course, in one of the days, but at the end of the day, it's what you like the best, right? So the success is not gonna come from one big trade, which I think is another thing that some people think about, is that they try to get lucky on one trade. They're looking for that 20x gain on some news trade that can just fall in their laps, which can happen, but it won't happen when you're looking for it, right? When you're trying to force that, it'll never come. Instead, like I said, just focus on today, focus on taking the right things and the right trades, and then something like that will eventually fall in your hands. So, from today, I want you guys to start journaling. Um, I will share my process as well and how I do it. There is also a channel. If you guys go down to the trading floor, it says journaling. I do hope that you guys do post in that. I've already seen a few people posting in there. I suggest everyone does. Again, if you guys don't want to, you don't have to. But it definitely is beneficial, I want to say. Not just for your own self, but also for accountability purposes, right? Like if you guys can make it a routine to post in there every day, that way your peers can see it and you guys can keep each other accountable to make sure that you're taking the right trades. Because one thing is, you can take, I want to say, let's just say a 0 DTE spy put, right, and size heavy on it, and not feel that guilty about it because you know that no one's watching you. But the second you know that a friend who's going to keep you accountable is watching you, I'm telling you, the chances of you taking that trade go down by at least 50%. So make it a habit to post in there every single trade that you take, or at least your kind of what you did throughout the day. And that way you guys can keep each other accountable. And I'll also be in there, of course, taking a look at what you guys are doing and seeing your progress. Your journaling is very important. Speaking from my personal experience, there has been weeks where I wouldn't journal, and without a doubt, those weeks I would definitely underperform because I would not notice the little details in my trading that would change, right? And I wouldn't know what's happening in the market to the littlest detail when I'm not journaling, right? But when I'm journaling and I'm reviewing every single day's action and every single trade that I took that day, I'm very in tune with the markets, right? And I know exactly what's going on and how I feel mentally, right? So don't think that you're too good for journaling. No one is. My most profitable months, I've journaled every single trade, every single thing that I did. My most unprofitable months, I did not do that. It's a night and day difference, right? So I will be sharing my journaling system as well in one of the days. If you don't journal, you're just making this game harder for yourself. Simply put, start journaling. Trust me, you won't regret it. I'd like using TradeZilla just because it shows me all my statistics and my performance details. But if you guys want to do it just manually, you also can. At the end of the day, it's what you're most consistent with. All right. So some expectations. Why is this? Okay, never mind. Some expectations for the lab, right? From you guys at least. Show up. I don't know how many people joined today's stream. Today is Saturday, so I wouldn't be surprised if some people couldn't make it. But ideally, you guys do show up to every single stream. That way we could talk and I could actually feel like I'm talking to someone. I don't like just being streaming and without anyone there. But yeah, show up. Take notes, handwritten or on your laptop or whatever you guys like. Do the work. I'm not really gonna be sending you guys. I'm gonna be sending you guys some kind of, I guess you can call it tasks. Like go find me a chart of a distribution. Go find me a chart of a parabolic long, etc. That way you guys can actually go out and search and do some research, which I think is also pretty beneficial. So whenever I do that, make sure you do actually go and do the work. Don't half-ass it and don't avoid it. Ask questions. Scratch the good questions. I think all questions are good questions. If there's something that's unclear, ask me. Don't think that your question is dumb. In my last boot camps, I used to always get asked, I want to ask a question. This might sound a bit stupid. The only thing that's stupid is not asking the question, right? There is no such thing as a stupid question. If there's something that you're unsure about, if there's something that you don't understand, ask me, right? Don't keep it inside of you because you think it's a stupid question. Keeping it inside is the stupid thing to do, right? Another thing is respect the process, right? Don't try to rush it. Trading is one of the most difficult games that you could be playing. I like to call it a game. I don't like to call it a job because to me, trading is just like a video game. But it is literally one of the most difficult things that you could do. So don't think that a month is enough for you to become successful. It's gonna take time, right? Which is fine. Let it take time. Just don't waste any time, right? Don't be repeating the same mistakes. Don't be rushing the process, right? Let it take its time, but just put in the work and take it day by day, right? And in the past, right, from the past boot camps that I've done, there was a lot of people that would come in, right, and leave with zero benefit, right? And the reason for that is they would not put in the work. Right. At the end of the day, I could teach you the best information. I could show you the best guidebooks. I could show you the best frameworks. But if you don't put in the work, right, you're not going to see any results, right? So at the end of the day, it's up to you to actually put in the work, to show up, to take notes, right? To stay focused, to stick to the process and stick to the structures so that you can actually see the results. So the goal of this week, right, week one, is it's kind of a whole foundation reset, right? So understanding how to actually read charts, right, and removing a lot of the BS noise that you don't need and the noise that doesn't matter. Understanding market structure as well, which goes hand in hand with how to read charts with clarity, and then also to start trading with discipline and a process, as well as a journaling system that I will be sharing, so that you guys can have a routine ready to be used from the start. All right, having actionable things that you could do on a day-to-day basis from today, essentially, right? And then also diving into some of the emotional aspects of trading and how to avoid them. So, some rules to implement on yourself going forward: focus on the process, right? The money that you make does not matter. Your P&L means nothing for now, right? The only thing that should determine how you feel towards the day is how well you stuck to the system, right? And how well you, with how disciplined you were. It doesn't matter if you had the red day, it doesn't matter if you had the green day, it doesn't matter if you had your biggest day or your biggest loss, right? The only thing that matters is how well did you stick to the system and the process. Right? That's it. Don't overtrade. I don't want you guys to be overtrading, especially during this month, because if you are overtrading and you start to get into some emotional roller coaster, you're not gonna end up absorbing any of the information that I'm putting out there, right? In my last boot camps, there was a few guys that would tune in and they'd be trading a ton of things and oversizing like crazy, and then the month would end and they would not know what happened, right? Because their minds were too attached to the trades that were taking, the stupid trades that they were taking, and they'd end up just not actually learning anything, right? So get rid of that and just focus on the process, right? Focus on learning a system or the system and the process. Forget about the making money part, right? I promise you guys, if you do put in the work, right, it is possible. But just don't focus on the money aspect and actually focus on the system and on the process for now. So, kind of as a final message, this is hopefully where all your bad habits are put to end. All the bad habits die, right? And we start a new page, a new chapter in your trading careers. I want you guys to put behind you all the past mistakes that you've done. All, let's just say, if you're down, if you're in drawdown, right? If your account is down 70%, if your account's down 80%, that's in the past, right? We are starting a new chapter, new rules, new disciplines, new process, a new system, a new way of trading, right? That is gonna hopefully live with you, right? The past is in the past. Let's focus on today. Let's focus on now, right? This is where structure and real professional trading begins. I don't like the word professional, but essentially where advanced trading begins, right? We're gonna have a strong foundation, right? A very strong structure, and then the profits will follow, right? So welcome to the lab, everyone. Super, super hyped to get started. This is going to be a tough month, not just for me, but for you guys as well, because there will be a lot of information, there will be a lot of content. I will be sharing a ton of charts and a ton of detail. So be sure that you're ready to absorb all that. Don't be distracted by the markets, right? Obviously, keep trading, but try not to be overwhelmed with that. So, you guys have any questions? Anything like that in regards to what's going to happen next, how the plan is moving forward, or anything like that? So the accountability channel is more so the journaling channel is more so very trade related, right? So very like what actually went on in your trades, right? The accountability part is where you can actually talk to one another and be like, I messed up here. I was really struggling with this. I need someone to talk to. Oh, I did really good in this. It's more so on the, I guess I want to say, emotional aspect, while the journaling part is very detailed and very technical. Yes, correct. Every single stream will be recorded and posted shortly after. Oh my god, I'm actually back in London, so it's 1:30. It's not 4:30. But yeah, don't worry. I've kind of fixed my sleep schedule so that I sleep around 3 or 4. That way I can get all the streams in. I'm telling you guys, some of the streams, like probably in like week 3 or 4, they're gonna be some long streams. Like, I would not be surprised if one of the streams I just go on and talk for 3 hours straight. Yeah, I'm used to it by now. Um, if I want to grow my Twitter, I have to stay up late. Just how the engagement works. So kind of used to it. How do you expect to respond to student charts if Mark says something is not right without offending? Do you mean how will I be responding to your charts without offending? Oh, other students like student to student. Um, I mean, hopefully no one's attached to their charts. Um, like we all have different opinions, right? Just be like, I don't agree with you on this. I actually see why. You see X, I see Y, right? Yeah, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Assuming you have a general understanding of trading, what would you say is the most important aspect, habit, routine to be a successful trader? Well, there's quite a few, but I would say one of the most important ones is having no ego, um, and having an open mindset that is ready to exchange ideas and ready to accept that you are wrong. If someone has a very high ego, they will fail at trading because it will be very hard for them to take losses. So I would say one of the most important things is getting rid of a high ego. And then if you want kind of a more technical answer, the most important habit to be a successful trader, um, yeah, I was gonna say journaling as well. Yeah, having some ego obviously is good, right? Like ego definitely drives you to compete. But I'm talking about like the really high ego where someone just has to be right no matter what. That will definitely kill you in trading super fast. I've never seen a person with a high ego succeed in trading. And keep in mind, when someone's talking about an idea, right, there is no correct or incorrect answer, right? To an extent, there is at the start, right? If you're talking about, for example, going long at the top of a trend or something like that, that would be, I guess you can call it wrong. But if someone just sees something different, it's not necessarily wrong. It's just if someone's gonna come and argue against you, right? They should just have an opposing thesis that they could explain. You save a lot of money the quicker you're able to admit that your original thesis was wrong. 100%. Besides journaling, it's a very broad question. There's honestly a lot. A routine, I would say, is having a specific routine that you could follow every single day, right? So let's just say after market close by 2 hours, I'm gonna be scanning for the next day, and then before market open, I'm gonna be jotting down what I see, right? Having a routine that you follow every single day. It could be that, or it could be something else, whatever you think is best for you, right? Like for me, for example, um, after market close, I take a break off the charts for 2 hours, and then I hop back on and spend kind of 2 hours or so charting and taking note of everything that I see and everything that I like into the next day. And then the next morning, before market opens by 30 minutes or an hour, I start to take note of, is the market gapping up? Is the market gapping down? What are the individual names that I'm looking at doing in pre-market, and exactly how I plan on executing them. And then another part of my routine, for example, if you want to talk about a bit more broad, Saturdays I don't touch a chart. I'm not allowed to scan on Saturdays. I'm only allowed to journal. I think one day out of the week for me, which is Saturday, um, is good to not scan. That way, my brain is actually open, is refreshed for the next day. When a stock is expected to rally but gaps down, what do you do? How not to stock it? Well, it depends. I need a bit more detail on that specific example, but usually when a name is gapping down hard, I take it off my list for a few days and I let it tighten back up. Yeah, I like to take my Saturdays a bit more chill. especially this weekend. I definitely needed it. I came off a really big 10-day run from Energy to Baidu. Those were crazy back-to-back trades. Is market structure the only way to place stop losses? The way that I like to focus on stop losses is I want to make sure that my stops are at spots that invalidate the thesis, right? A lot of people will trade stocks, right, and they'll place their stops at areas in the chart where the trade thesis is not invalid, right? Like, for example, let me go ahead and share my screen. We're kind of getting a bit off topic, but it's okay. Okay. The point that I'm trying to make is, let's just say, okay, yeah, this is actually a good example. Okay, so let's just say someone was looking to go long on Baba, right? Let's just say they were looking to trade this kind of move, right? They wanted to buy a break over 156 to go long, right? And the setup that they were looking at is this kind of big weekly pullback or weekly retest into the zone. Also, did you guys see how everyone is not talking about Baba? We were all over it way before everyone from back here. But yeah, so let's just say that's the setup they're looking at, right? And they're looking to trade it. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll buy something up here, right? Let's just say on Monday they'll buy it here, and then they'll set their stop kind of at this low, right? If this low gets taken out, they'll stop out of their position. I don't like that because in this case, right, if this low gets taken out, the setup is not invalid. It might just want to move a bit lower and then move back up, right? I like setting my stops at spots that make the trade invalid, right? Like, for example, if I'm buying, first of all, I wouldn't buy up here, right? I would much more be buying it down here and then setting my stop at this low, right? That way, if this low gets taken out, we make new lows, this setup is now invalidated, right? But if you buy it up here and it slightly pulls back against you and you stop out, the setup is still valid, but you have to cut your trade because that's where your stop is, right? So I'm focused on areas where trade ideas are no longer valid, right? And I'm also quick on taking them. Love the intro to the lobbies. Were there any broad recommendations to things we can adopt to our routine in and out of trading? Um, Having a specific time during the day where you get off the screens while the market is open, I think is very important. I think for everyone, generally speaking, the way that we trade, 2 hours into market open, get off the screens. To me, I go to the gym. Obviously, go to the gym. That's obviously a very good thing to do, but it could be doing something else. But I want to say 2 hours after market open, get off the screens. That's usually when volatility dries out, volume dies, and we get into lunch hours, and the market just becomes really, really dry. Especially for an options trader, when the names aren't really moving, that's usually when your options are going to start to decay, and that'll happen 2 hours after market open, usually. So getting off the screens 2 hours into market open, and then coming back 2 hours before the close is a very good something I definitely recommend for everyone. Thesis on Baidu. I could cover it real quick. If you guys go to the live prep, I actually mentioned the I think the day that I got long. Did I? Let me actually just check. No, I don't think I did. I did on the free Discord on my free server. I mentioned the day that I went long. Here, found it. Um, but yeah, so Baidu was in a massive accumulation, right? From these lows, you can see it in price, you can see in the volume, and then price gets super tight here, and then it eventually breaks out. And then from that breakout, we're just simply looking for a pullback to buy, right? And then we do pull back right into the 21 day. And then from there, we're waiting for price to tighten up on the daily time frame, right? Which we got right here. If we replay this, this is a very clean chart, right? Starting from earnings, which was a gap down, right? That got bought up with some increase in volume, and then price starts to make higher highs and higher lows, and then we kind of start to consolidate here and get really compressed against the moving averages. And I got long right here on this day as we tested into this small gap and held with a nice kind of hammer, and then price continued to tighten up. And then this day was very important. We got a gap down that got bought up the whole day and ended with a bullish engulfing on increase in volume. And then the next day we get a gap up of 4%, which is where I took a trim but didn't sell my full position. And then the day after that we gap up 10%, where I took my gain. On the discussion of clean charts, I know you doesn't use many indicators, but I wonder from the group aside from EMAs, is there any indicator used for alerts that you can live without the indicator that finds good setups? Personally, I haven't seen any, but you can ask others. Why are some hollow candles? Why are some candles hollow, others filled? Yeah, so the filled candle, right, means that price closed below where it opened on the day. So look at this one here. Price opened here and closed here. But it's green because it closed above the previous day's open. But you look at this day. Price opens here. Let's just look at this day. Price closes above the day's open and above the previous day's close. And then for the red candles, a full red candle is closed below the open and below the previous day's close. A hollow red is a close below the previous day's close but above today's open. I really like these colors. I still also have my OG colors, these. If you guys know my charts, they used to always look like this. But with how the weather is here in London, how sunsets at like 4, I don't want to be staring at white screens. It really hurts my eyes. So I just went to black. I would always see the flag on bad earnings as retracement. Just can't get it off my mind no matter how much I try. What do you mean? A flag on bad earnings? Like a bear flag? Um, well, yeah, sometimes bad earnings, you expect it to keep driving down. Yeah, don't deep the earnings reaction too much. Look at what happens after it, right? Like for example, a lot of times bad earnings will bottom price. Like for example, look at this here. Oh, this was earnings actually, but never mind. I thought that was earnings. I'm here, for example. This was actually the bottom. So focus on the price action that follows, right? Not just the actual earnings reaction. But yeah, don't worry. Well, we'll break all that down and when to actually focus on earnings. Like for example, on Nvidia, the short that I took on this day here on earnings actually. While most people thought that Nvidia is back because it gapped up 5%, I went short and caught an 11% move on the underlying because I understood the overall structure of price that came before it, right? Not just a simple reaction. You think PLTR breaking the 100 EMA? I don't use the 100 EMA, but let's just check. Oops. Um, maybe. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, this is in distribution. It's clear as day that it is in distribution. This was a super super clean short up here. I remember talking about on the free Discord and played out 16%. Pretty crazy. Charts like these that move level to level are just beautiful. But yeah, this could be a nice short. The only issue with this is that it's had a lot of volatility over the last week or so. So I expect volatility to kind of um, be a bit lower this week. Um, I'd much rather be short in the video. I am short in the video, actually. Yeah, am I? Oh my god. What? Yeah, I was tripping. Yeah, this looks good. Never mind. This looks really good, actually. Yeah, I think the video looks way worse. So I got my position. It's gonna be a pretty interesting next couple of weeks. I don't know what QQQ and Spy are gonna do. I'm just focused on individual names. My journaling template, yeah. I will do that. Just let me find it. Give me a second here. I shared it in the journaling tab. But alright, guys, I'm gonna call it here. Tomorrow I will be streaming